Awesome. So now I'm intrigued. I do want to go and maybe listen to that one podcast of yours, that
I'm
one
sorry,
episode.
you want to listen to, you asked me on your show, or I asked you, and you're only going to listen to one?
Hi, I'm Kyle Weckerly, certified professional ghostwriter. I'm glad you're listening as I welcome industry experts to share stories. You'll hear of lessons learned the hard way, overcoming professional hurdles, turning experience into actionable knowledge, and how to connect with your target audience. This is the Career Challenges Podcast. Welcome to the Career Challenges Podcast. My guest for this episode is Dr. Lindsay Weisner, and she is a clinical psychologist from Long Island, New York, specializing in anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation. She's also the host of the Neurotic Nourishment Podcast and the author of the upcoming book, 10 Steps to Finding Happy. So, Dr. Lindsay Weisner, welcome to the Career Challenges Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
for
So,
having
should I
me.
refer to you as Dr. Weisner or Lindsay, or Dr. Lindsay maybe?
Yeah, I have to think about it. If I don't like you, you got to use the doctor. But if I do, either is fine. Honestly, Lindsay is fine. I work a lot with teenagers, so as long as they don't call me expletives, I'm happy. So
Yes, that's a victory in and of itself.
yay!
Yes. Well, funny little bit about me. My sister-in-law's name is Lindsay. We have a very close friend named Lindsay who I consider my sister. So there's a lot of Lindsays in my life. And if there's any more, I'm going to go over the quota and I won't be able to keep track of them. So
Do you want me to leave?
maybe, no, we'll see. We'll see. So first off, I'm going to start with the podcast because we've got the podcast and the book and a lot of stuff to talk there. So I'm really going to have to work on reining myself in here. But anyway, the Neurotic Nourishment Podcast. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. I met an amazing friend through a group of sort of networking women. I had just moved my private practice and I invited some local like successful business women. I live in suburbia, and so there's a big divide between stay-at-home moms and working moms, and I make my schedule, so I'm kind of both. So I was super excited to get invited to this dinner, and I met this woman. Her name is Sharon Sapir. She is a incredible nutritionist. I immediately hired her to help me lose weight, and pretty soon after that, she quit because I don't listen to directions. And then I hired her again, and then I fired her. But during this time, she became one of my best friends. And we are very different. We're about, I think she's about 10 years younger than me. We parent different, we think different, we work different. And one day we were at a playground bickering over something silly. And someone said, hey, you guys should start a podcast. And I'm like a word person. So I was like, yes, what are we going to call it? I don't think I'd ever listened to more than 2 podcasts, but thus began. It started on a cell phone where, like I think it was an anchor recording where you dial in.
Mm.
And we sort of just liked listening to ourselves talk. And then we got some pretty cool guests. And one of them was a pretty successful dating type podcaster. And she said, you guys are great. Have you ever thought of using a sound editor or an intro? And we had not. But so she is to this day one of my very good friends. And we have, she's the first person I call and the last person I ever agree with. And we sort of make it our point to have, I like to call them smart, sweary women.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about real stuff. There's a lot of funny, smart women making a name for themselves on social media. And I don't know if you would recognize them, but if it's very often where we'll come across a name and because I'm no holds bars, I'll be like, I'm going to ask her to be on the podcast. And Sharon will be like, she's not going to be on the podcast. And the next thing you know, they will. And so we meet the most amazing people and have the most incredible conversations. And it's definitely one of the highlights of my week. So
Awesome. So is it about nutrition? Is it about neurosis?
It's kind of about both. We've had some incredibly inspiring fitness, nutritionist, Nick Reese. He's a really great personal trainer in the Maryland, DC, Virginia area. Cody Taggart, he is a huge mental health advocate as well as a smoking hot fitness guy. I sort of hit on him, which was weird, but it was like low key, so not too weird.
So is that in the episode? Has that been recorded?
Oh, totally. And it's been
Okay.
recorded and it's been aired. And I basically am like, you're so cute, but I'm old, so I can say whatever I want. And that just makes it even worse. We actually interviewed this woman from the UK. Her name is Zoe Aston, and she has this fantastic, it's like a mind gym sort of workout. And she feels like we should exercise and flex our mental, emotional muscles the same way we do our physical ones. And she's created a whole program that's really successful.
Wow. So how many episodes have you completed?
Excellent question. We just, a few days ago, we aired number 22. I think we've recorded about 26.
Awesome.
I just did one today that I'm really excited about because it was probably one of the toughest episodes I've ever had. I ended up meeting another mom on one of these, mom podcast groups. And we got to talking and we ended up having a really honest discussion and comfortable discussion about race and what African-American moms face, what Caucasian moms face, what the difference is, how we have to raise our children. It's probably the conversation I've always wanted to have, but never felt confident, brave enough, secure enough to do it. So I kind of want to push that one to the top of the list next because it's incredible. And I think it's just a start.
Awesome. So now I'm intrigued. I do want to go and maybe listen to that one podcast of yours.
I'm sorry, you want to listen to, you asked me on your show, or I asked you, and you're only going to listen to one? Because I have another one about suicide. That's a good one too.
Oh, wow. So that's some heavy stuff too.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this then. What is your lead time from recording to debut?
Oh my gosh, that's a difficult question. So we started and we had no clue what we were doing. So there's one that, in general, it's about a month, but that's because we've been releasing once a week. And I think we're going to take I think I'm going to be taking a little bit more of a lead in the podcasting bit because I feel more passionately about it. And of course I want to use it to promote my book and almost more importantly to promote mental health awareness. provoke, whatever.
Either way, it works out.
I know. So I think there are going to be some weeks when we do sort of bonus episodes.
Mm-hmm.
One on Monday, one on Thursday. I'm still learning. And to me, I just recently, through a conversation with a friend, figured out that the reason this is important to me is because I think when I was a kid, I was told a lot of non-truths. There's the tooth fairy and those other things. But once I grew old enough to be like, I don't think there's a tooth fairy, my voice was sort of silenced. And that's why I love writing. And yet, here is this amazing thing where every schmuck with a internet connection and a microphone can suddenly have a voice. And I want to be that schmuck. So that's not a super bad word, so that's okay.
No.
Okay, good.
It works out. I use it as well. And me too. That's part of the reason why I got into podcasting is I'm like, well, I feel I have something to say and I love giving other people that opportunity. So it kind of works out, And, you also have to admit, or at least I'm going to admit it, you get kind of that
ego.
There it is. That big word, ego, those 3 letters, ego, that you're like, hey, I'm on a podcast and I'm being recorded and people are going to listen to it. So, it's nice. It's nice. I'm not going to lie.
So
nice.
It's funny. I had recently, Sharon and I had this talk again about her involvement and what she was going to be able to contribute. And I had a real decision. Can I do this without her? Mm-hmm. I knew that I didn't want to, but I also realized that I doubted myself. And so I had to ask all, 4 people that listen, if they thought I could get away with it, which is funny because at this point in my life, I think I feel pretty secure about most things. And yet this is so new. I'm learning. But I'm also that person in the room that raises their hand and is like, this is the dumbest idea ever. So that qualifies me to be a podcaster, I think.
Definitely. And sometimes people just want something to say. Oh, I gotta
Wait,
put it
what
in.
is your lead time from, airing to recording to airing? Can I ask?
Right now, it's about 2 months. I always
Okay.
try and keep a buffer of at least 6 episodes
Why?
ready to go. I don't know why I picked that number or why it seems to be working out there, but I'll get up to about 8 episodes or 9 episodes ahead, and then I'll kind of ease off looking for guests or accepting guests. Just because right now, we're getting into the holidays, of course, and it's getting busy. But I want to have enough time so that I'm not rushing at the last moment or the day of to get an episode out. It's ready to go, and I have time to really talk with guests and find guests that I feel really work with the podcast and the message that I'm trying to promote, which is, of course, working through your career and learning from your mistakes and taking that experience and turning it into something that somebody can use later on and connecting with your target audience. So for you, for example, Lindsay, it may be people who want to learn more about nutrition or delving into their own issues and trying to solve things from their past, or maybe they just want to talk about their book and they want to reach a great audience with their book. And so I'm like, well, I want to be able to provide that for them. And hear stories. I love hearing stories and listening to other people's stories and sharing that and sharing their stories. Because I'll drop names on podcasts about other guests, and that's always fun.
Sure.
So, that's why I do that. So I guess in a roundabout way to answer your question, that lead time is really more for my anxiety, because once the deadline's getting close and I'm trying to get something in there, I feel I sacrifice quality, and I don't want to really do that. Not that anybody's going to be like, well, that episode has less quality than the other episodes, so we're going to ding you on that, but it's really more for me.
Sure, but should we really let anxiety guide our decision?
No, we shouldn't, Lindsay.
Okay.
No, we
No,
shouldn't.
but yes, that's my shrink coming out. But I'm also asking because, we're booked through January, and it made me feel sort of foolish. I'm not Seth Meyers or Conan O'Brien, and also I think I'm a bit impulsive, and so I don't know if I want to talk to someone, like I want to talk to that someone. And so I like learning from you and your decisions because I don't know, it's helpful.
Yeah.
Maybe, or you're wrong. I don't know.
That's quite possible. I have been wrong at least once before, right? Anyway, back to what you were saying about, with scheduling and wanting to talk to people. There have been people that I've turned away. There have been guests that I've turned away. Almost everybody who's come to me and said, I want to be on the podcast, I'm like, sure, let's do this. But there have been a couple people that I remember specifically who I said, no, I don't think you're the right fit for my target audience. Because one guy really just wanted to pitch a product.
What was the product? Was it I can't say it.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't multi-level marketing. No, it wasn't that at all.
I was going to go with like a sex toy thing, but fine, whatever.
No, it wasn't that at all. It was, a marketing thing. It was some marketing thing. You pay for this service. We get you amazing leads. You'll make money.
I got pitched that, and I don't know what to do. Okay.
Yeah, and I just told him, it's not going to work, because he wasn't interested about telling his story. It was all about sell, 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 sell. Another guy, which I let him on the podcast, and now I'm like, I probably should have told him no and just gone and found another guest. It probably would have worked out anyway. But he was going to talk about how great he was and his service and how he was helping people. And he did put in stories in there, but I felt it veered way too close to him pitching something.
Self-promo.
Yeah, self-promo. So yeah.
It's funny. You seem like you would be very qualified to be one of those Facebook admin groups people, because
oh yeah,
Oh my God, I swear it's like a power trip. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for XYZ. I'm sorry, that's self-promotion. Well, I mean, all right. We've
Well,
actually,
actually, I
yeah,
get in
tell me.
trouble with those people. I've
So
gotten
do
in
I. I
trouble
don't
with those
care.
people.
I don't
One
care.
time it was a very specific group, like they were very regional to begin with. And I just put an episode on there. I'm like, hey guys, here's an episode. I think you might like it. And the lady called me out on the comments. And I was so, upset, quote unquote, upset. And I was like, fine, I'll do it your way. And so I posted it the way that she wanted it. And she's like, well, here's the question. I'm like, oh, whatever.
Oh, can I share mine?
Sure.
There's this group. It's called I don't actually care. It's called Therapist Tool Group or Tool
Mm-hmm.
Tips or something. And I posted the podcast episode I did on suicidality in teens, how to talk to people about it. And the comment I got was, this is not appropriate for this group. And I gave myself 24 hours and then I wrote back. I was like, hi, gotta tell you something. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I gave him 8,000 stats about how many therapists turned down suicidal people, how many therapists turned down anyone with a previous hospitalization record. And if this isn't a tool, then what is? And he was like, I fully support and hear you, but no. So I know. I
Yeah.
wanted to egg his house, but I didn't.
Very good. Very good.
That's disappointing. We've actually recorded a few episodes and not aired them. And to me, that's the more uncomfortable position, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because what do you do in that situation when they ask, well, why isn't my episode up?
We've came up with an excuse that we've never used, which is we had a sound glitch and the whole thing got, deleted.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in lying. I've just never had to use that excuse.
Sure. Well, there was one time because I really liked this guest. We really connected. It was Jeff Munn. I'm going to say his name because it was an awesome interview. And he was actually talking to me about meditation. And he
Nice.
does business coaching and he helps his clients meditate to help them, focus on what they need to do. And it's all part of his methodology. And then in the episode, I'm actually kind of getting taught how to meditate. And so you hear me go, okay, well, let's get back to the business part because I wanted to keep questions. But I'm like, no, the people aren't going to want to listen to Kyle getting a meditation lesson.
They do.
They want to listen to Jeff Munn talk about how he helps people. So
insecurity, introvert, nope.
True.
Every time you look down, I'm like, you are going to edit that out.
No, I'm actually just writing notes. That's what I do. Okay. I'm very extensive with my notes, I have to say.
I have to write notes because I recently got diagnosed with adult ADD, which makes so much sense. Mm-hmm. Because if you give me directions, you're like, go down the street, make a left. And I'm like, okay, that's where it must be because I don't hear anything else. Mm-hmm. So once I write it down, it's in my brain.
True. It's like my sister-in-law, Lindsay. She's a great writer. She has so much ability there. She's working for a news station out in Colorado, but she has adult ADD as well. So I was like, how about this?
So did she go for medication?
I haven't asked her. I don't think it's one of those things we've really talked about. We've really connected on writing, and writing and running. We both run as well. So those are the two topics that I feel I really can talk to her about. But there's certain things you just don't talk about with certain members of your extended family, like politics.
No, boo! Oh, I don't care about politics, but don't stigmatize mental illness.
No, we don't.
Cancer,
I just never asked her though. I never thought to ask her. That's why I'm saying that.
If she had cancer, you would ask her, "Are you having chemo? And what is your stage?" Sorry, that's my passion. So not cancer, by the way, but
So awesome. So with podcasting, let's get back onto that topic. With podcasting and looking for guests, have you found it to be enlightening in a way, I guess, when you're talking with people on the podcast, like, well, I can help them this way, but also I'm learning from them about this. What is that like?
That's a good question. I think I'm one of those people that loves being the intermediary. I was looking on Facebook the other day and I noticed that a friend from college and a friend from graduate school had like 18 friends in common and yet didn't know each other. And well, one is involved in a theater type thing, and the other is she's actually one of our guest writers in the book, and she's a psychologist who has it's like a theater blog. And I sent them a little, joint text. I was like, hi guys, 18 people in common. You should really reach out. And so I like doing that. I obviously like learning from other people. A long time ago, I learned not to try to shrink other people, except for you, because you asked for this. But
True. I guess I did.
But no, I like people, and I like discovering new things about them and about myself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so with your podcast, Neurotic Nourishment, and you're obviously very passionate. I've been able to pick that up from you in maybe the 20 minutes that we've been recording. Do you feel it also gives you that platform to really talk about the things that you really care about, and what outcomes have come out of that you've seen?
We're only 22 episodes in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm reaching a huge number of people. I do think I'm establishing sort of a bond that I never kind of knew was capable. I mean, I feel like women bond either through sororities, which I wasn't into, or, no offense, or like when they have kids and we're all running around like clueless and half naked. Mm-hmm. So this venture into Instagram and podcasting has been a new way of finding really amazing people to talk to. A few weeks ago, we spoke to Dr. Jackie Shoemaker Holmes, and she is I'm going to mess up her title, but she basically has a doctorate in sociology, like feminist sociology. I think it's a degree that probably didn't really exist when I was in college, but I'm old. But her take on like body positivity and all of these things was huge. Tomorrow, I'm actually super lucky, and I have a guest podcast co-host, and we're also interviewing my guest podcast host her name is Kendra from Anxious Moms, and she is from Kansas. And then we're talking to Gila, who is in the UK and an expat. And one of the things we want to talk about is how, different norms, and I'm still geeking out over this conversation I had today with this amazing woman, Ariana. So
awesome. So like a sociological approach?
It is. I also, when I first started Instagram, I started posting videos. No one watches videos on like social psych and whatever. And I did something about social psychology and the Salem witch trials, and I thought that was fantastic. And I really like thinking about Mean Girls and Salem witch trials and social psychology. I think I was so intent on studying it, I didn't understand it. Mm-hmm. And now I'm at a point where I'm more relaxed and less able to understand, and then to also teach other people.
Awesome. Well, the reason why I brought up the sociology is my wife is teaching a class on it this year, and it's a new subject for her, so we're really talking a lot about it. And then it's also forcing us to look at society, from an intellectual standpoint, which is always fun to analyze and microanalyze, high school students, because she's a high school teacher.
That's amazing. I mean, that she deserves an award and a martini every night. Yeah.
Yeah, well, she's not a drinker, so I guess not a martini, but
whatever, crack, I'm open. I mean, that is a tough job,
It is.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Weisner from the Neurotic Nourishment Podcast. I'm a psychologist, an author.
Mom, where's my math book?
It's in the kitchen. Neurotic Nourishment is a podcast for smart, sweary women.
Mom, we're gonna be late. We don't have to be there
Neurotic Nourishment is a podcast where smart, sweary women can talk about real issues that matter. The truth is...
Mom, she punched me. He said I poured too much milk. She did pour too much milk. Mom, where do babies come from? Sex.
Neurotic Nourishment is a podcast where smart, sweary women talk about shit that matters. The truth is, no matter what we accomplish in our professional lives, for better or worse, we are always moms first.
Would you like to be a guest on the Career Challenges podcast? Go to careerchallengespodcast.com to find out how. While you're there, check out other episodes and download them through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, CastBox, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. The Career Challenges podcast is hosted by me, Kyle Weckerly. I'm a certified professional ghostwriter who works with business thought leaders and industry experts to write polished manuscripts, assess their publishing options, and create book marketing plans. I've worked with consultants, high-ticket salespeople, coaches, speakers, C-level executives, and business owners. My authors have worked for USAA, Vistage, Booz Allen Hamilton, Austin Technology Council, and the John Maxwell team. My authors want to write a book to serve as a platform for their marketing endeavors. They know that becoming an author will help them secure speaking gigs, market their expertise, promote a product or service, and more. Are you ready to turn your experience, knowledge, and stories into actionable advice and connect with your ideal client? Then visit WeckerlyWriter.com to schedule a consultation today and begin your publishing journey. That's WeckerlyWriter.com. WeckerlyWriter.com. And now, back to the Career Challenges podcast. With other podcast hosts, what I always want to ask is kind of what was your favorite guest moment? And you don't have to be specific. So that way, when you talk about your least favorite moment or guest moment, you still don't have to be specific. You can be vague. And that's more for liability issue. But anyway, what is kind of the best moment for you?
Liability? Who's going to sue me? I mean, you perhaps.
Yeah, because I need $5.
You make $5. I'm gonna. That's another thing we can talk about.
There we go. Yeah.
I think I have two of them. Again, one was today. This discussion about race because, I am a white woman. Sometimes I have blonde hair, not this season, but I'm a white woman. I'm Jewish. I live in a mostly Jewish town. I'm upper middle class. Mm-hmm. And there are things that I understand in books, but not in reality. And I think that I've always been scared to ask the questions. Mm-hmm. So that was huge. And then the other one was this interview that we did with Cody Taggart. And this is the hot fitness guy, low-key hitting on. And Cody tells a story about how when he was 21, he actually tried to kill himself, gun to the mouth, wow. And then something stopped him. And the reason that was probably one of my favorite moments is because I had this weird communal gain strength from people who are near you because I have a relative who has tried to commit suicide. And I say that not because I'm callous, but because it's so painful. Mm-hmm. And so there was a 15-year-old boy in our small suburban town who committed suicide. And I think partially because of religious reasons and partially because of emotional reasons, his family and the school decided to describe it as a tragic accident, which it was clearly not. And suicide is really contagious among teens, especially with social media, 24-hour news coverage. And so I really needed to talk about it for personal reasons, for professional reasons, and because I got a sudden influx of teenagers who, even if they weren't actively suicidal, were thinking about it. And if no one else wants to say the words and no one else wants to talk about it, someone has to say it's okay to feel things, even if you don't act on them. And so Cody, Sharon, and I sat and I fought this wave of guilt in saying these words and possibly hurting this child's family. But it was one of the bigger picture, one child versus many. And it was really tough for me, and I absolutely cried after. And it's one of the few episodes I haven't listened to, but I felt and hope and pray in a non-biblical sense, but just more in a hope for the world way, that it really made a difference to someone. And it was after that podcast that I really started thinking about, I'm going to pivot, but it's going to be good, that I really started thinking about my book and how I can use it for something bigger. You know, there's a lot of books on happiness, and I don't think that that it's a one recipe, one script fits all. It's myself, a YA author, and 24 expert writers in different fields, and we're all coming together. And like my big fantasy, it used to be catching someone on the subway reading my book that I wrote. And now I don't really take the subway, so but now I really have this image, vision, prayer that on March 20th, on or about, when we go on social media, there'll be people holding up, it's a postcard of the cover of my book, but it says, with the hashtag 10 steps end the stigma. And I don't really care how well my book does, because to be honest, you don't make all that much money per book.
No, it's in what you use it for is what really matters.
So I want to So I want to see that, to know that I'm not alone, and to know that the stuff I went through as a teenager, maybe I can stop someone else from going through it. And I also want to use it as, I'm going to say seed money, but I don't even mean money. I mean soil, fertilizer, some other gardening metaphor, so that I can have the backing and foundation to write my next book, which I do want to talk to teens about suicide, and then parents about how to deal with their children and teens' suicidal feelings. See, I just got really dark really fast, but that is my...
No, it's actually, well, A, was a good segue, and B, there's those moments in conversations you need to have the light, and then you need to have the serious. Actually, my second guest, Laura Hansen, we were talking serious. The topic ended up being how to be serious and how to be silly.
Yeah.
And we went into that topic really in depth, which I thought was really kind of funny in a meta way, because we're seriously talking about how to be silly, and we're being silly about how to talk about serious things.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I thought that was funny, and Laura Hansen has actually been a really big supporter of the show ever since then. So I really respect her. So shout out to Laura Hansen.
No, but that's also great. Yeah.
Yeah, but also what you're describing is that your book is a platform for something bigger.
I mean, fingers crossed. I have to be able to pull this off, and I don't know how to do that, to be honest.
Well, part of it too is podcast episodes.
Yeah.
You're going on podcasts. You're targeting podcasts that you feel can really get your message out there, or you can at least get on another platform and talk about it. So you're doing part of the book marketing scheme, or a book marketing plan. So I wanted to say props to that. Good call there. And then also, you're using the book as a means to an end. I said platform as well, but also you're very focused on where you want to go. So with that in mind, and of course with podcasting and all that, what is your plan then? Are you going to do more podcasts? Are you going to do more speaking engagements? Are you going to go to conferences, or are you going to just try and get the book out to as many people as possible, whatever way you can?
I want to do all of the above. And it's not, I don't think fame and fortune is in my future, because frankly, I'm a little too old, a little too chubby, and a little too busy, to be, that whole influencer thing. Although I did try to convince my 8-year-old to dress up as an influencer for Halloween, because it would have been hysterical. I think really I work with teens because I wish there was someone that had helped me with what I was going through with my relative when I was that age. And I want to keep people alive, because it's also it's contagious. And I do think it can get better, but someone has to believe in you. And unfortunately, it's not usually the parents. Like, I have the greatest teenagers, and then their parent walks in the room and they're like, I can't use bad words, so I don't even know what to tell you, but it's like suddenly I'm like, who the hell are you? You know?
Mm-hmm.
I want to make a difference. I want to make a difference. I think I have something to say. I also think I say it differently, even though you won't let me, but which I respect. No, but like,
I appreciate
listen,
that. I appreciate it.
a few years ago, there was an argument in my town about, actually, this is part of what prompted our podcast, about whether or not the holiday Eid, it's a Muslim holiday, there's 2 days. You look confused, but that's okay. So was I. And
Yeah.
they wanted this
I just
town,
haven't heard of it. Yeah.
nor had I. I believe we don't have a very large Muslim population, but you can't legally find out that information because it's a religion, not a,
Yeah.
and I'm a shockingly active in PTA, although they do threaten to kick me out every once in a while. And I heard things that were coming out of people's mouths and they didn't even realize how racist it was. And I raised my hand and I've got like degrees, before and after my name. And so I get to say things. And I was like, we're all going to end up sounding like a lot of a-holes if we don't get on the right page. No one listened. We did sound like a-holes, but I think I use strong words to gain attention and then hopefully do something with it. And that's my struggle. And this is, I don't know. I don't know how to get enough people behind it, but it's what I want, because even if it's one day when people think, yeah, we can talk about this. Thoughts don't equal actions, and mental illness deserves as much attention as physical illness, then I feel like I've helped someone, or I'm just a total narcissist, one way or the other.
Yeah, true. It could go either way. All right. But
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you had mentioned Eid. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's EID. There's actually 2 days. They're in the summer, and that was sort of the most annoying thing to me, because technically it's like 6 days over 3 years, but if you looked at the school calendar, it actually was only going to eliminate 1 day of school.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, but people have summer camp and like summer shares, and no one wants to interfere. You know how it is, values.
Yes, true. Well, here in San Antonio, we do have a pretty sizable Muslim population, and I feel bad. I'm like, I don't know that much, and I feel like I come across as ignorant, and so it's frustrating. And I'm sure, and like talking as a white person, I feel I can say this. There's that belief that you're open-minded and you're accepting of all cultures, and then when you really sit down and look at it and try to talk to people from different backgrounds, ethnic, religious, or from New York, wherever you may be, you realize, man, I know so little. And
right, but
in talking, I sound so stupid. Yeah, true.
I mean, you have sounded stupid a couple times. Just kidding.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I accept
no,
that.
No, but
I don't purport myself to be a professional all the time. I follow my words and I sound dumb. But what I was saying is, like, I realize I sound ignorant and I don't want to be.
I don't know if you sound ignorant or if and this, maybe I'm just projecting, but this was my issue today. Like, maybe I'm ignorant because it never occurred to me that breastfeeding for a Black mother would be supported, enforced, taught, handled differently than for a white mother. But I also never asked the question. So
true. Yeah. And that reminds me when I was delivering pizzas in my lofty careers that I've had, one of them was delivering pizzas.
Which chain? Because this seems important right now.
It's got dots.
You can't even mention that? How many listeners do you have that you don't feel like you can mention that?
Well, also, I've said a lot of choice things about that. Anyway.
Everyone knows who dots are. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't want it to come around and get me. Anyway.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, legal. Liability.
$5, yeah.
Anyway, a lot of the people who were delivering pizzas were Hispanic, Puerto Rican, Guatemalan, Mexican, and this was right around the time Trump was elected, and a lot of them were saying, I'm going to get deported, I'm going to get sent back, there's all this racism happening, and I look around, I'm like, I don't believe I'm racist, but I'm worried that what I say and how I act makes me look that way. And I asked one of them point blank, I'm like, well, how do I talk to you in a way that I don't sound racist? And he looked at me like I was stupid, like you're doing right now. And
I'm just laughing and not stupid. Just
true,
laughing.
true. And he said, just talk to me like a normal human being. I'm like, okay. And so, like, sometimes you realize maybe I'm the one making it that way because I'm worried that I'm going to come across as racist. So in trying not to be racist, I am racist. It's like one of those sitcom setups, you know?
No, I got you. But I have to say, I do think our current political environment is breeding heightened discontent, racial differences, polarization, and I'm not blaming Trump.
Sure.
I don't know who's to blame because I kind of take offense to everything that both sides say. You know, like, come on, a liberal snowflake, that's just like calling someone a pansy like 20 years ago, you know. But also there's extremes on both ends, and we're all so defensive we all are trying so hard to not seem ignorant, racist, bias that we end up just sounding a little crazy pants.
Sure.
And then we have to stick with that so that we don't get blamed. So.
Sure. Well, that was a great discussion, but I never quite got to ask you about your book, 10 Steps to Finding Happy. So let's get back to that. Yes, you wrote a book. So just real quick, we still have some time left in our recording session. Talk to me about the process of writing that, what it was like working with your co-authors, editing and book covers and publishing. And so, just give me a quick rundown of that.
So I have actually never edited before in my life because essentially I was pretty cute in college. And so I got this idea for a weekly column. It was basically like, hey, I mean, in retrospect, it was a predecessor to a podcast, but I was like, hey, I want 800 words to talk about whatever I want. Can I have it? And I got it, and then I did well, and then I got twice a week, and I was like, this is great. And so I would literally show up like 2 nights before a deadline, type it all up, and be like, bye. And humorously, I'm still in touch with a lot of those people. My college roommate who absolutely got stuck editing my garbage is now what is she? She's the senior political editor at CNN.
Wow.
And,
so you gave her practice, really, is what you're doing.
They tolerated me, you know. There was another guy who I used to sneak cigarettes with in the office, and he's
shame.
Yeah, I was 19, and like he ended up to be an amazing writer and director, him and his brother. But they all understood that I wanted nothing to do with like work, you know, the actual editing, because I think I thought it was all just going to be, what is it called? Like grammar. And so my co-author comes to me. She's like, do you want to take a look at my book? And I said, I actually want to co-write it with you, but I think we need some other experts. And so mostly I am going to take credit for this one part. Recruited 24 expert writers from a million different fields. And then I discovered that if you ask someone to write something, you have to tell them how to fix it. And I really loved it. I really loved it. And it's in part because of my psychology background. I really love being able to say, but what did you feel? But how did that make me feel it, make me see it. I never took, that whole writing thing, show it, don't tell it, or whatever. Yeah, I never took that class ever.
I never took that class either. I have an art degree, actually, and yet I ended up in writing. So
yeah, I never took that class. And in fact, one of my favorite stories from college is I lived with a linguistics major, English major, and then I was an English psych major. And the linguistics major and I were talking one time, and we realized that I couldn't find my journal, and she couldn't find her favorite pair of boots or something. And P.S., we found out that one of the English teachers at Georgetown was giving assignments that that you should steal your roommate's stuff and like, yeah, I swear to God.
Wow.
And like
That's an
record
interesting
it.
assignment.
It is, but it was Georgetown. I'm sure there was a good biblical reason for it. But
Right.
this was my first venture, and first of all, I'm obviously hoping that these expert writers, are as proud of the book as I am, and that they promote it in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
That's key. I also learned from other nonfiction writers, and I recently started a book launch group. I call it a party because I think that means people will think there'll be like music and beer. So,
Yeah.
and I sort of want to do like a ground roots. That's not the word. Roots. Give me a help.
Grassroots.
Thank you. I didn't do
Grassroots.
well. Yeah,
That's okay.
grassroots type thing because, yeah, we have a publisher, we have a marketer, but we don't have a huge amount of money, and I don't want to make a huge amount. I mean, nude modeling, I want to make a huge amount of money, but like, but not in this. I really just want a platform to talk about the things that are important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited. We have an art therapist. We have a dance and movement therapist who works with a palliative care children's population, which I could never imagine. We have a jazz singer. We have like this 20-something-year-old who put together this women empowerment expo. Like, we have some really, I'm sorry, but badass people, and I really, I'm excited to see how it goes, and I hope it goes well enough that we can all do whatever we want to do next. And we also provide 10 steps with concrete actions. It's not just like think happy thoughts. It's like get off your butt, try something different so that your neurotransmitters start kicking in.
Yeah, which I always enjoyed those books more because I've noticed in the nonfiction, like self-help kind of books.
The Secret? Are we going to talk about The Secret?
Well, that, but also there was another book, which I won't mention the author's name.
Why? Just whisper it to me and I'll say anything. No one's going to sue me.
Well, I'll tell you after I turn off the recording. But he wrote a book about how, he lifted himself from poverty and now he's running this multi-million-dollar company. And
Joel Osteen.
No, but he's
Tony Robbins. It doesn't matter.
He's like working through his process of how to make his business amazing, and it's all about your mindset. I'm like, no, I really don't think it's just that. Mindset is important. I'm not knocking it. It's just when they all seem to just talk about how their mind helped them get there. I'm like, no, you probably had some steps that you took, like getting a loan or talking to the right people or marketing.
I think that's huge. Taking advantage of who you know.
Yeah.
And not in like a bad way, but in a like connection way, like, hey, I just met this person. You might like them. Yeah.
And so with like another book, Captivate by Vanessa Van Edwards, she talked about how introverts can go into a networking meeting or a business meeting, any sort of like professional group setting, and kind of hack that situation to where they're actually having meaningful conversations. I'm like, now those are action steps that I can use.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you just in this recording, you've probably seen how awkward I am. So
you are less awkward. I'm a little disappointed. You talk about it more than you are, but actually, I recently read Kindra Hall. It's Stories We Tell or something. Oh, edit that. Fact check it. So
there we go.
Thank you. But it's great. It really is the same thing that we're talking about, which is stories have so much more power than words.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the, whenever I have anyone on my podcast, I say, is there anything off limits? And I respect that. And yet put in that same position, I don't feel like I can explain who I am if I put things off limits. So
sure. I understand.
It's exciting. So I can count on you to help me promote the 10 steps and the stigma, correct?
Yes, correct.
That was such a hesitation. He's lying.
Well, I wasn't sure you were done with your question. I want to make sure I give the guest appropriate time to speak and to say their mind and not step on their words.
Oh, I don't do that. Interesting. Okay.
So, yeah, but that's a big thing with me too. Is try not to step on people's words because I hate it when people step on what I'm trying to say. Because so many people I know in my family, both in my family and my in-laws and extended family and all that, they've got to say what they got to say right now. And it doesn't matter that you're not done talking. They're going to do that. I'm like, hey, I will give you the time to talk. I will listen to whatever stupid, moronic, political, social, economic, ideological idea you have if you just let me talk. So
how many older sisters do you have?
One.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So would you have guessed one?
I would have guessed more than one, but I knew it was a girl and I knew it was older.
Wow. That's pretty interesting.
I would love
so
to say it's psychic, but it's not.
Well, let me really put you on the spot here and see how well you can, I guess, psychoanalyze me from just our conversation.
4. I'm just kidding.
No, not 4 siblings. I did have more than one sister. So how many more do you think I have? This is gonna be fun. I'm gonna enjoy this.
You did, but no longer do?
No. I do have an older sister. I have X amount of other siblings.
Who are no longer with us?
No.
Okay.
Not that
I was
at
going to
all.
say that's really serious. I don't want to, so you probably fall in the middle of a hand, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I'm a middle child, yes.
Right. But the question is, do you have 1 younger or 2 younger? Because I think 3 is too many.
I do. I have 1 younger, but can you guess what kind of sibling that person was? There we go. I'm trying to be as vague as possible. I really want to make this difficult for you.
If this is not a ghost or a dead person, you're really a half sister or stepsister, I would guess. But that was an easy one.
No, I have a twin. I have a twin brother. I'm 1 minute older than him.
Did we just make him or her? Because I'm cool with that. I'm just making sure I understand.
No.
Okay.
Wow, did we really make this confusing? I'm going to have to go back and listen.
You really made this confusing. You're like, how many other sisters do I have? I'm like, dead? Alive?
No, I said siblings. I can go back in the recording and prove it.
Or you can just edit it so you look right and I look wrong.
Or that too. Which I'm going to edit that out as well.
Which is fine.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun. All right, so your podcast, the Neurotic Nourishment Podcast, where can people find it if they're really digging? What
do you mean really digging? Send people to it. So it is called Neurotic Nourishment. There's also an Instagram account at Neurotic Nourishment. You can find it on Apple/iTunes, Spotify, and wherever the heck else people. I have no idea what the other ones are.
Yeah,
but they're all there. I feel like most of them.
And do you have a website for that as well that people can go to?
No, but I guess I should by your question. I have an Instagram account. It's called Psych Shrink Mom, and that is pretty much me just being obnoxious and sweary and complaining about things. Mm-hmm. I also have an Instagram page for the book. It's called at 10 Steps Finding Happy. My biggest thing that I would love support over is my sort of book launch. So if you don't join tonight, I'll know. I don't know. It's literally 10 Steps Finding Happy book launch. And all it really means is I'm looking for people to read, review, rate, Goodreads, Amazon, whatever, the book, because I want to build up some hype, because even if you don't like the book, I mean, who doesn't like puppies? Who doesn't like raising mental health and saving our children? So
True.
So those are all the places I can think of. So
I will definitely do what I can.
I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Lindsay Weisner, thank you so much for being on the Career Challenges podcast with me today. Thank you for listening to the Career Challenges podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and like the Career Challenges podcast on your favorite podcasting app. Visit careerchallengespodcast.com for more information. Schedule your free consultation with Kyle Weckerly by visiting weckerlywriter.com today. That's WECKERLYWRITER.com. Thank you.